First of all, Veronica, welcome to the show.
Hi,
thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
What sparked your interest in Islam?
It was around when I was 16. I was dating this guy, and I had told him about how I haven't been feeling connected with my religion in years. I mean, years. Like, I resented going to church. I felt it as a chore, but I still wanted to be connected to God in some way. I didn't want to be necessarily agnostic, but I definitely wasn't atheist because everybody else was.
Why didn't you go the atheist route?
I always felt a connection with God. I always felt like there's something out there that I can talk to, that would answer the questions and the uncertainties and the nervousness I had about life, especially being young and the childhood I grew up in being pretty hard. Parents divorced. Well, parents actually never got married. Parents separated. Mother, not the most stable person. I don't even really talk to her. So I grew up with my single dad. Basically, my dad was a single parent. And moving like 8 or 9 times, switching schools all the time. It's not necessarily the best environment. But Islam really changed my life. It changed my life for the better. I knew I wasn't connected with Christianity, so I kind of was on my own wave of like praying to God myself and, kind of like talking to him or talking to them and just being like, what do I do? Like, what is out there? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't feel connected with Christianity, but I still want God in my life. And I was kind of researching Judaism. I really didn't practice it a whole lot. I didn't, go that much into it because I was talking a lot to my ex at the time. Once him and I stopped talking, then I, did my own research for about 6 months. 6-7 months, yeah, because I kind of did it in December, and it wasn't really till the late summer till I fully decided this is what I want. The community that I went into first, being 16 and so young and trying to navigate this myself, it was so welcoming, so warm, and just everybody wanted to teach me. There wasn't one person that I had met who was a Muslim who didn't help me in some sort of way with this religion, who didn't want to talk about the negatives, things that thoughts that I had about it, or the things that I was confused, or questions that I had. I had so many people that I wasn't even really necessarily friends with who just wanted to help me because they wanted to see my journey and like what I wanted to do with Islam.
I like what you said. Muslims don't shy away from the difficult questions in Islam. Mm-hmm. A lot of the criticisms of Islam historically by atheist or agnostic or Christian and Jewish scholars, it is only documented and known by us in this modern time because Muslim scholars took the time to write it down. Mm-hmm. It is our own religion that wrote down the criticisms of itself to answer them. Mm-hmm. We are very intellectually honest in the way we operate. But you're also scientifically minded. That's something you're deeply interested in. So in those 6 months, how did that kind of go exactly?
Well, I think everything that we learn came from God. Evolution came from God, like Big Bang, because yes, scientifically you have certain, chemical reactions, certain physical reactions, just any sort of one step led to another. And as a scientist, as somebody who is heavily involved in it, I want to look at the cold hard facts, and I want to look, okay, this and this happened, so this occurred, right? So I tried to somehow entwine the two, and not necessarily take, let's say for Christianity or Catholicism, there's certain parts where it's like, oh, we were just plopped here, like humans and stuff like that, and evolution doesn't exist. Some people think the world is 6,000 years old, which is not true. I think that he created it in such a perfect way for these things to happen, for, let's say, life to evolve, let's say, for galaxies to rotate, for things like black holes and everything like that, for us to question what's out there, for us to learn more. And, I think I personally love that. I love it. I love tying in religion and science because personally I think they go hand in hand, because I think those are huge. I love reading the two and comparing them. The universe came to be in 10 to the negative 33 seconds. That's how fast it was, which is insane to think about, and to see that kind of tie in with the Quran is very nice. And it's nice to have those two go hand in hand in a sense. And the whole thing where it's like we're certainly expanding it, that goes into the Hubble constant and how the universe is expanding and accelerating the further we get away from further we look, faster it's accelerating. When I was growing up Catholic, there was this quote from the Bible that the earth was made in like 7 days, and God brought light and day and all of that. And I was always confused about that as a child. I was always like, how did that, that doesn't sound right.
So once you took the Shahada, right, 6 months after your own personal research, what did that start looking like on a social level, on a mental level?
Well, I will say it has been very hard. Even now, it is pretty hard because my family is extremely conservative. My family doesn't necessarily, agree with Islam. They have a very sheltered mindset about it, and I've tried opening up to them. I've tried, a majority of my friends are Muslim and, have different sort of faiths. And so I've had to hide it. I still hide it to this day, and it's probably not something that I'm going to be open about until I'm either independent or I'm getting married.
What do you think would happen if they found out?
They would probably cut me off. I don't think they necessarily would, but they definitely would have a lot of questions and a lot of like, why were you hiding this for so long? Like they've had inclinations before. Like my grandmother has, and my dad certainly has about it. Like my Muslim Pro app would go off, and the adhan would go off before I learned how to turn, the adhan off. And then I stopped eating pork. My family are huge, being like my grandparents grew up Italian. They're not Italian, but they grew up in Italian street in Brooklyn. So a lot of pork, a lot of sausage, a lot of all of that. And I suddenly one day was like, nope, makes me sick. And my grandmother found my Quran once in my prayer mat, and she's thrown it out the window. And she used to lie and say things weren't made with pork when they were, to kind of like test me. I used to like put stuff in my mouth and then walk to the bathroom and spit it out. I don't want to necessarily demonize my family, think that they're so wrong, but generations, they grew up super Catholic.
They have a stereotypical view of Islam. Let's just put it lightly.
Yeah, and I would say my dad would probably be way more open, and then rather than my grandmother. She's kind of like the head of the household, and she, I don't want to demonize her and her beliefs, but she grew up in an era where she didn't have, access to all these different religions and cultures and stuff that we have. So she came really firm in her beliefs. And I don't want to sit there and fight with her and change her. And when she asks me about religion, I tell her that I pray to God. I don't go into depths or details and stuff like that. And at this point, my family knows I don't eat pork, and I'm like, it makes me nauseous and stuff like that. I used to tell my dad I was going to the mall, and my friend Ahmad would take me to the mosque, or we would go and somewhere, and we would just talk about Islam. I think that's the most difficult thing I would have to say would probably be learning prayer, because I couldn't do this in the open. So that was even like more time where I had to hide what I wanted to do. And during Ramadan, I couldn't fast, except when I was at my apartment now, because they would have dinner at 6 o'clock. You know, so there was no point in me trying to fast because they would be like, why are you eating? So I had to hide, and it's hard because I want to be open about it because it's such a big part of my life. It's a massive part of my life. It's introduced me to 90% of the friends that I have now. So
yeah. And you've mentioned your friends quite a bit. So it seems like you created your own little Muslim family as well. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How much did that correlate with you remaining Muslim to this day?
Oh, I would say 100%. 100%. The people that I've met in high school, my friend Ahmad, Arish, Yasmin, Sarah, those people in high school have unconditionally asked me or answered so many questions and helped me in so many ways, and some of those people I don't even talk to this day. I don't even know what they're doing, but without them I think my journey in Islam would be a lot more lost.